and to share a bit about table talks today and give you a taste of the experience of what table talks is about. So thank you so much, Limlimt, for being here. I know, we have a lot on our plates and we're very busy people, and so taking time to come join us at our table really means a lot to me. Yeah, when I saw the registrations come in each day, we were getting more and more, and I just felt my heart fill, and yeah, it just gives me hope when I see all of you here that you're here to be part of the changes that we want to make together. So, Lim for being here. So as we are starting to learn the protocols of land acknowledgement, I wanted to invite us to start in that way today. And we're going to do ours a little bit different. Um, when you think about protocols, we've been doing protocols since time immemorial for thousands of years, and it's a way to acknowledge those our ancestors who have been here in the past and continue to be here today and into the future. So just want to, I know you wrote it in your chat box, but let's bring the sound of the names of the territories that you're calling in from. So on the count of three, let's unmute and say the name of the territory you're all calling in from as well. 1, 2, 3.
Wabanaki Dawnland Confederacy.
Beautiful. Sounds so great to hear the names of the territories and that you're all like, what a diverse group. We're all calling in from different places. When I think about land acknowledgements and like, why do we do them? It's it's reminding us of principles like values of reciprocity, respect, and gratitude. And I remember hearing that saying recently, respect is more than words. And so I think about that as well around, when we do a land acknowledgement, it also invites us to reflect on what we're grateful for. And so I'm gonna invite you to take a moment to tune into your gratitude of where you live or where you're calling in from. So if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes if you want, or take some deep breaths. So get comfortable in your seat. You can take some breaths with me. I have a cold right now, so I'm really appreciating some deep breaths. So let's just take a few deep breaths into our belly. If you don't want to shut your eyes, then maybe you prefer to look out your window and just, trace your eye along the top of the mountain, or maybe the trees that you can see. If you're in the city, maybe it's a building. But let yourself, just notice. What's the first thought that comes to mind when I think about gratitude for where I live? And just take one more deep breath. And if you had your eyes closed, you can open them again, and let's type our gratitude, our words of gratitude in the chat box and just see what other people are reflecting on today. So what is one thing that you're grateful for where you live? And we'll share that in the chat box. If anyone is having any if you ever have any technical questions with finding the chat box or finding things, just put your hand up and Katie will help you. Yeah, so grateful for the water and the elk. Oh, that visited the neighborhood this morning. Beautiful. You have water, sia, fruit. Summers at the river, beautiful. Lake. The winds, we're getting lots of those this morning, aren't we? In the Smalkaveen here. Beautiful weather, yes, it's so sunny. And the sound of the wind in the trees, yeah. Snow, and we still have snow caps going. It's beautiful. Ponderosa pine. Wow, I love this. And the mountains. Every time I go somewhere flatlands, and I come home, I'm like so grateful for the mountains. And your dog. I love it. Yeah, so thank you for everyone's shares. Land acknowledgements are also about honoring the peoples, not only the land, but the peoples where we're gathering on. And since this is Zoom, we're all gathering from different places. And when you think about the indigenous people where you live, have taken responsibility for and been in good relationship with the land, the foods, the medicines, the waters, all the waterways, all lifeways. And, with all the devastating impacts from the environmental impacts, I mean, and colonization and the ongoing oppression, I'm just always so like grateful and in awe of our ancestors and our leaders today that just have never abandoned that role and the incredible resiliency and strength that's taken to continue to steward the land through all of that. So I just want to also invite us as we're doing this land acknowledgement. How do you also show gratitude and like reciprocity to the indigenous peoples on whose homelands you live? So if you're indigenous and you're in the circle, so and you're living on your own homelands, you would express it that way. Or if you're not indigenous, how are you showing your gratitude and reciprocity to the peoples where you live? Actually, let's have a one or two shares out loud. Let's bring in some voices. You can put it in the chat if you want. But is anyone willing to share and bring your voice in? Give me a break from my talking. So how do I show my gratitude and reciprocity to the indigenous peoples? Oh, I hear someone.
Jessica, I saw your hand up.
Jessica?
Yes. So I was just clicking the wrong button to unmute myself, sorry. Um, yeah, so first of all, we consult. So we found out when we moved here whose territory we're on, and then when we're doing things on our farm, we consult with them prior to doing anything, and we get their approval, their input, and yeah. So and then we gift. We try we try to gift more than the chief whose territory we're on, but I have a saying for any settlers who come and visit us, which is try to outgift a Gitsan, and it's impossible. So you can't do it. We try and try and try, and we just keep getting outgifted. So
I love that. Great to see you, Jessica.
yeah, nice to see you too, Kelly.
Hmm. Anyone else want to share? Or maybe Kim, one of the Kims can share in the chat box what was written in the chat box.
Sure, I can do that, Cal. Let's see. We got helping others daily, understanding the plants more deeply, engaging respectfully with community members, engagement, conversations with individuals, saying thank you when I'm invited to practice like today, or sending an email. Learning the language and working at connecting and building relationship with the Sinex people who are living in this area.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. Wow. Yeah. So I love that Jessica brought up like the gifting. It's such a big part of our indigenous culture and also feasting. So I just want to invite in the theme of this is around tables, table talk. And I'd like to invite you to imagine that we're actually going to come together around a table and bring some food. So this also will get you moving together. We're going to do some movement. So if you're comfortable standing, we'll just do, this will be a couple minutes of movement together. So imagine that your kitchen, your imaginary kitchen is full of everything you need, and you're going to make your favorite dish to bring to table talks. Okay, so imagine you're in your kitchen, maybe you actually are, and you're gathering up all your ingredients to make your recipe. So let's imagine that we have to reach to that top. Oh, I got to get my flour. It's way up on the top shelf. Oh, I might need both arms. Stretch up and bring it down, put it on the counter. And, oh, one more thing. I got to grab that dish, to my baking dish. Grab up, maybe even need to tiptoe, like go on your, it's so high up there on the top of the shelf. Bring that down. And what else? Maybe you need to go down into the bottom of your pantry and grab some of your vegetables. So yeah, just continue doing some movements and like exaggerate them a little bit. Like if you have to stir something, imagine it's the biggest pot ever. You're stirring this huge pot. Or maybe you're slicing things and it's almost like you're chopping wood. Yeah, let's just get our body moving as we're making this recipe. And maybe you have to put in the oven. If you're making cookies, maybe you even want to take a little taste of that yummy cookie dough. So we're gonna fast forward now and imagine your dish is finished. And when you're ready, you smell that delicious smell of your dish that you're bringing, and you can bring it and come sit down again if you're standing. And imagine as you look at the screen here, I'm hoping you have it on gallery so you can see everybody at the table here. If you don't have it on gallery, it's on the top right-hand corner. You can switch it to gallery. But imagine we've all arrived at the table with our dishes. So I'd love to hear what you brought. If you want to put that in the chat box, what dish did you bring? And again, Kim, do you mind reading them out?
Absolutely, Cal. Okay. Ooh, well, now I'm gonna get hungry. We've got apple and cherry pie, an apple crisp, apple walnut muffins, chili, banana bread, yam peanut stew. Oh my goodness, that sounds good. Ginger crinkle cookies, one massive chocolate chip cookie, chicken curry, oh my favorite. Pasta salad with tomatoes from their garden, and spring asparagus, more banana bread, and pierogies. Vegetable chili with warm homemade bread. Oh my goodness, that sounds awesome.
I am
And
getting so hungry.
I can't pronounce that. Hig Wilchem? Salmon potato soup and double fudge brownie with espresso icing. Oh my God,
Mm.
lots of desserts. See, everybody has
Oh,
a sweet tooth.
I am definitely getting hungry, and I love seeing the diversity of everything yeah, all the foodies are here. So yeah, how many people have hosted or really, like attending parties or hosting parties? Anyone? A few people do. Not everybody likes hosting or attending. Yeah. Um, what is the value? Like, what's the value of gathering over a meal? Like, why have a meal with, something like an important conversation or a challenging issue? Just curious. You can say it out loud if you want. Oh, your grandmother's pho. Is it pho? Beautiful. Yum. Mm. Yeah, so what community connection? Yeah, when we eat together, we're more connected. Hmm. What else? Why is it important? Or what's the value of eating together? Yeah, grounding, seeing the humanity in the person across the table. Yeah.
Someone said it feels good to take care of people in our lives.
Oh,
And the in-person energy and facial expressions.
yeah.
A lot different than meeting on Zoom, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Mm-hmm. Sharing
Such a
stories.
human act of eating together and sharing stories. And
Yeah.
love is shared over food always. And taking time and giving to each other. Another sharing stories and listening to other people. Sharing ideas and food, laughter. Yeah.
Mm.
Food is a love language. And new food equals new perspectives. Yes, I love getting new recipes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great. I think we might use some of these on our promo.
Yes.
Wow, I love it. Thank you. Yeah. So even like it doesn't really matter what foods brought. Like I remember I had a potluck once and mostly everybody brought chips and we still had fun. And for Silk people, it is like you're sharing more than a meal. It's about expressing that it's that reciprocity and honoring traditions. Feasting holds such deep spiritual and social significance as, you know, um, when you go to any ceremony, food is such a big part of it. And our silk protocols help ensure we stay connected and our traditional practices, they're meant to keep us in reciprocal relationship with one another in the land. And I want to share one of the other protocols with you today. When we feast together, we do a food offering. Is there anyone else that's familiar? Is anyone familiar with food offerings? Yeah, thanks, Hiram. Hmm. So, we're just gonna imagine that we're taking that dish, the dish that we brought a little part for the food offering. And when you're at a feast, you put it on a plate. So let's all take a little piece and put it on the imaginary group plate. And we offer it back to the land. And it's a reminder to remember that we're in reciprocal relationship with all of our relations, all life ways. So as we're giving that food back to the land, to our ancestors, all our relations, I want you to also reflect on this question. What is one way I am actively caring for or giving back to the land and water where I live? So we'll invite you to do one more share here around in the chat box, or you can also share it out loud if you'd like. What is one way I am actively caring for or giving back to the land and water where I live? And again, Kim, I'm going to ask you to read some out, please.
Sure, Cal. Okay, they're just coming. I'll just mention one way that I give back is when I go for a walk, I introduce myself to the trees. And you can find me many times hugging or touching trees. I just love them. So someone said recycling and composting. On my daily walks with the dogs, I pick up garbage and talk to the trees, making a beautiful garden. I talk to my pond every day, stopping to notice, saying a prayer of gratitude. Removing invasives. Ah, good idea. Appreciating where I live by walking and being present in nature and picking up garbage as I walk. Yes, I do that too. Protecting grasslands and being an advocate for nature in my community. And having harvesting berries. I ask them if they're ready for me to harvest them, leave those that aren't, and say thank you to those that are. As a practice. Oh, thanks to, yeah, Robin Kimmerer. Kimmerer.
Another Kim.
Yes, I know, there's many of us. Taking everything taking everything out of the mountains, take it in, and respect the area I am provided opportunity to spend time in. Speaking to the plants, composting, and clearing Gitsan farmland and growing vegetables. Learning about the plants that are native to this area, and knowing their names, and offering tobacco when harvesting, and attempting to take Take care of the soil through composting and gardening and visiting the land and thanking it.
Wow, beautiful. Thanks, everyone. So we just wanted to share a land acknowledgement in a different way. And so when when we're gonna give you a taste of like what is different about table talks from other programs. And you've already experienced a feeling of that. It's embodied, it's holistic, it's relational, conversational. So that's our main goal today is two things, to give you a feel for what Table Talks is about and to give you enough information that you will know if you want to sign up and be a host for Table Talks. So the first part of our journey today is going to be, experiential. And Table Talks, I just want to say a little bit more about what Table Talks is. I know you read the poster, obviously you wouldn't be here, but it's designed to support non-Indigenous people, settlers, in holding themselves in conversations about very difficult, like thorny topics, like these are not easy topics. When we talk about racism and anti-Indigenous racism, especially in colonization, and when we talk about residential schools, there's a lot of feelings that come up, and they're not easy conversations to have. So we wanted to create a space that is inclusive, safer for people to be able to speak and maybe have different opinions, and talk about things that are hard together. And so I often say that, this is not just informational, it's relational. So today we're going to be doing a lot of what we're doing right now, and then we'll have a bio break here and there. We'll make sure to have breaks. And but if you need to have a break, please just take it whenever you need it. If you have to have a bio break, of course. But I love that most of you have your video cameras on, and that really helps create that relational space. And it would be awesome if you're all able to keep your video cameras on for today's session, and also understand if there's things going on where you can't. And yeah, excuse me. So we hope that by the time you leave today session, that you will be, yes, Table Talks is for me, I'd love to host one, or no, I think I'm not ready for that. And we wanted to do this session because, first of all, we wanted to make sure people knew why they were signing up and what they were signing up for. Because it's not super straightforward, or easy. It can be a little complicated hosting a table talk. So, there's some prep involved. It's going over some of the amazing resources we're going to give you. Maybe you would stretch out of your comfort zone a bit with some of the activities that we do. So we really want to make sure that the people that sign up are like, yes, this is for me. And it's okay if it isn't for you. So I wanted to also introduce you to our amazing team that has built this program together, our like amazing team of people here today. Maybe we can all just wave so you can see who's on our IndigenEYEZ and kinSHIFT team. And you'll get to know some of our two Kims, Kimmy and Kimmer. And Charmaine's here too. So, but before we do that, I would love to hear from all of you. Like, what brought you here? What sparked your interest in hosting table talks, a table talk conversation, or a conversation about truth and reconciliation? If you want to just put in the chat box, you're welcome to again, or let's have a few shares verbally. Anyone want to share what brought you here?
I'm happy to share. A few things brought me here. One, I was traveling like quite a while ago and ended up at this place that had like quite a like intersectional model of hosting. And I just thought, oh wow, that would be so cool in my community because often it does get quite diverse, even though it's a smaller community. And I just think it's so fun when you end up somewhere and you're like sharing with someone who has just a totally different life experience. Um, and then the other reason for me is because I have plans for large harvest tables, like building them. And so I just thought, okay, yeah, if I'm going to build it, the people will come and I'll need to know how to facilitate the people. And that's what brought me here today.
Oh, great to see you, Natasha. I'm glad you're here. Anyone else want to share?
I can share. Oh, sorry, Anna. Thanks. I'm here because as a white woman in the spaces that I'm in, I work in a predominantly white space, and we're not having these conversations. And also just, knowing that the Truth and Reconciliation report came out in 2015, and here we are 2025, and these are conversations that I think as white people, we have been socialized to avoid hard and awkward conversations. So just really here to build skills. And I appreciate the work of IndigenEYEZ because it's also about being in community to help support us as we go through that and grow those skills. So that's why I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much, Glenda. Great to see you.
I can read a few in the chat box there,
Okay.
Cal. So Barb said stretching herself and stretching other settlers in her life. And Marie's, I think I won't say the names just in case I get them wrong. I'm so sorry. I want to learn more about Indigenous culture and how I can play a part in reconciliation. I need to know more and want whatever I do to be meaningful. We are funding an organization and I'm struggling a bit, right? Keeps moving, with embodying how to make impacts with meaning versus just a check. I want whatever our organization does to be meaningful for the community. I just joined, oops, just moved, a new board, Purple, and as tech helps as a director engagement, I love to bring insight and meaningful table talks to the community events and national conferences where we are planning to host in a year, and of course personal learning to incorporate this outside of my work. And allyship training, Jessica took allyship training with us before and I've been wanting more ever since, and I'm the only non-Indigenous person in their organization, and I need to be able to manage some or more of the hard conversations with non-Indigenous people who interact with our organization. Maybe I'll just brief some of them. So a forever learner, that's awesome. It's a lifelong learning, and she's part of a beautiful support team, personal professional that wants to learn and wants to have those conversations. And for better support and initiative, I want to find a new way to learn, new way to engage people in my church and community. And yes, more than a checklist. Having difficult conversations, able to walk gently as I learn more about the Indigenous cultures. And I've been looking for a way to support the work of reconciliation and decolonization that is Indigenous led, while putting the work on non-Indigenous folks.
Wow. That sounds great. It sounds like you're in the right place. I remembered years ago, I was thinking I was doing this workshop in I think it was Williams Lake, and this guy came in while we're eating breakfast. So he ate breakfast, he sat down. I started my workshop, and about 15 minutes in, he goes, "I'm in the wrong place. I thought this was first aid." So I'm glad you guys are here. It sounds like great alignment with why you're here with our why. And I'm going to share a little bit about mine. In our culture, we have a way to introduce ourselves. It's called Sweeta Squeezed. Sweeta Squeezed. And it means who is your name, not what is your name. So when we introduce ourselves, we share a lot, the triangle behind us, like who are our people that make up us. So I'm going to share a bit about me. So my mom and dad, Loretta and Jim, my dad was my late father, Jim Turbasket, was Silch, and my mom is fifth generation settler, German and English heritage. And my grandparents on my dad's side, on my Silk side, my grandma and grandpa are there playing with my uncle Chief, David, and their names were Paul and Betty. And our last name, Turbasket, I just wanted to share this with you because it's so amazing to me that I'm a change maker, because our last name, Turbasket, actually translates to like a ball of knotted up thread. And then Turbasket is like unraveling the knots. So I really think, when I heard that translation from Richard Armstrong, I was like, wow, that's what I do. That's what we're doing. So we can see the systems. We can see the systems we're in. So on my great grandparents on my dad's side were Madeline and Paul Turbasket. Those are my great grandparents, and they lived to be 100 and I think it was 105 and 107. Like they lived a really long life, and they were quite old in these pictures. On my mom's side, on my settler English German side, my grandpa Paul, or maybe my grandpa Russell, he is English heritage, was English heritage, and my grandma Ruth was German heritage. And this next picture, Barb will recognize. I don't know if you've seen these pictures, Barb. These are my great grandparents, Frank and Anne. And that's me with them, with their pug. And I got my middle name Anne from my great grandmother, Anne. And I am the mother of two. Many of you have probably seen Madeline perform. And Sophia is a language warrior, and I'm just proud of them, so deeply proud of who they are. They are also leaders and change makers. And I'm not a grandma yet, but I'm hoping and waiting patiently. So those are the pictures. Yeah, so I wanted to share a little bit my sweetest squeeze and just, how does this tie in with table talks? Like, why did we start table talks and kinSHIFT? And I often say, like, being mixed heritage is my personal journey of reconciliation. Being a child of divorced parents, I moved back and forth from the age of 5, going back and forth between my two families. And they're so different. They had the different lived realities, the different cultures. And I didn't, I've been obviously doing lots of work to figure this out later in life, but I really polarized my identities because they were so separate. And so for most of my life, I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I fit in. And to survive, I had to like shut down parts of myself. When I'm over here with my settler white family, I had to act a certain way. And then when I was with my Indigenous family, I adjusted myself. And then recently I learned this is called code switching. I don't know if any of you have heard of code switching, but it's what marginalized people or people of color have to do to survive, to fit in, and to fit into the different social contexts or environments. And so it's like, where are the spaces we can be authentic? Where can we be ourselves and safely be ourselves are quite limited. So growing up with in the 70s, I was born in 1965. So like I was still, like some of you here today might remember this, the cowboy and Indian era. Lots of movies, always, my one uncle especially always had cowboy and Indians shows playing. And the Indians were always the bad guys. And even playing in the playground at school, like, I don't know if any of you had that in your school, but there was this game, Cowboy and Indians. And no one wanted to be the Indians. They were the bad guys. And so I think about how that shaped my self-perception, kind of reinforcing those negative stereotypes inside of me. about Indigenous people. And all I knew that was like, you know, being the cowboy was better. And it was confusing because my dad was like, I have my dad on a pedestal, like he was my hero, and my dad was a cowboy, a rancher. And so I was just really confused, like, you know, yeah, definitely want to be the cowboy over Indian, being Indigenous. And I remember, I'm just going to share a little story of a moment that really stands out to me. I was sitting with my Auntie Margaret on my mom's side, so it's my mom's sister, and I remember I was looking up in her eyes, like I was looking up at her, and I was like, "Oh, I love your eyes. They're so blue. They're so pretty." And I told her, I said, "I wish I had your blue eyes." And she was looking at me like with, you know, kind of like, "What? Your eyes are beautiful, Kelly. You have such beautiful brown eyes." And I just, that moment stands out to me because I remember like, "What? Don't you get it? Blue eyes are better than brown eyes." And then I felt like she didn't understand. So this aunt who I felt so close to, but yet she didn't understand me. And and then I also felt ashamed because I was like, "Oh, maybe I should be more proud. Why aren't I proud?" And this person who I adored so much didn't understand what I was experiencing. So that made like some distance. And I know it wasn't her fault at all. Like that's just how, like who understood internalized oppression and racism at that time, especially. People are just starting to learn now. Um, but it wasn't until I went to university that I really understood why I had shame about my Indigenous heritage. Like I learned about residential schools, I learned about the Indian Act and multi-generational trauma. And so then I started to shed my shame. Like that's when I noticed the understanding changed how I felt about myself. And also I was so fortunate to have an auntie, my Auntie Pauline, who she started taking us, her nieces, to so many ceremonies and gatherings. So I started to learn about my culture. And, you know, in my 20s, I started feeling so proud of who I was. I was proud to be Syilx. And, but that wasn't the end of shame. So that was kind of that, you know, era of like shedding my shame about my indigeneity. But then I had my lighter skin. So I have whiter skin than many of my cousins. And I used to get teased about my white skin, my lighter skin. It was called shama in a negative way, which is white person in our language. And also I lived off reserve. So I know that I had different ways of being because I lived with my mom mostly, and I stayed with my dad here and there, but I was mostly socialized by my mom. And so I probably acted way different, dressed, you know what I mean? Like, so there was like this division for me. So yeah, I just think of my story about like paralleling it to the larger story um, of like division and not feeling indigenous, and not feeling like white enough ever. Like I never quite fit in. Um, so these experience and you know, many, many more experiences shaped, you know, my desire as I grew up. I was like, I want to change this because it's so hard. I don't want my kids to go through this. I don't want future people to go through this. Questioning your worth and your identity, you know. I would love to be part of making the change where we can reconcile and we can, you know, meet at the table and speak about the truth and justice and share responsibility with each other. Um, and so I've had this desire for a long time in my life. I've done a lot of work that kind of contributed to that, but it wasn't really until I met Kim and we had this idea of table talks um, that really sparked the possibility. But I always think, okay, where did, you know, my inspiration come, I want to just acknowledge my grandma Betty that I mentioned earlier. When I was growing up and being at my grandma Betty's house, she always had like both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people at her table, and she always fed people. Like she was like the hub of the community and our family. And very warm, very, very warm, big smile. I don't know if anyone here happens to know her, remember her, but her kitchen was like the hub, and it was a really warm space with meals and lots of laughter. Anybody could stop by any time of the day and she'd feed you. She just, to me, she really reflected those values of respect and kindness and generosity. Like that inspired me to live up to her legacy. So I want to just attribute Table Talks to my grandma Betty. And yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about where I my why and why I wanted to start Table Talks. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about, sorry if you can hear my cat. Hold on. Can you jump in and read a little bit about the next part? I'm going to let her out. She's annoying me.
Oh, okay. So we're just going to share a little bit, a quick summary of how IndigenEYEZ came to be. It started as a youth camp and saw that Kelly also needed to strengthen the people that create a circle around Silk Youth and expand their programs to also reach community change makers and emerging leaders. And through IndigenEYEZ, we reached over 20,000 people from Indigenous communities across the province and beyond. And we wanted to find a way to create sustainable revenue for IndigenEYEZ and started kinSHIFT as a social enterprise in 2020. And it was around this time that Kelly really noticed an increasing desire from settlers and settler-led organizations for training around truth and reconciliation. So let's see. Oh, and I guess something to make a point of is that the fees from kinSHIFT help IndigenEYEZ continue to offer programs that uplift Indigenous communities and champions of all ages, with a special focus on women and Two-Spirit Plus peoples.
Thanks, Kim, for jumping
Okay,
in.
you're welcome.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yeah, like Kim was saying, while IndigenEYEZ is designed for Indigenous people, kinSHIFT was created for non-Indigenous people who want to build stronger and more respectful relationships with Indigenous peoples and communities. But are going like, I don't know where to start. And it provides a space where it's okay to make mistakes, ask the uncomfortable questions, and just learn, like I was saying earlier, learn in that supportive environment and get guidance for those who are ready to step into this work with openness and humility. And so far, like, I don't remember what year actually we started. It feels like about 5 years. We've supported over 1,500 people through kinSHIFT with our online Elements of Truth. Has anyone here taken Elements of Truth? Okay, a few of you have, yay. Just in case there's some people that haven't, I just want to do a quick little promo. Elements of Truth is facilitated by a Silk woman, and it's Silk led and developed, and we offer it 3 or 4 times a year. And the next one starts on April 17th. So we can send you information after this session, but it's 4 sessions online, 2.5 hours each, total of 10 hours. So it'd be awesome if you guys did both, but you don't have to. So Table Talks, we decided to, it's our latest innovation. And as I mentioned earlier, it was sparked by a conversation with Kimmy, who's here. We met, we're both very big dreamers, visionaries, idea people. So we met at the Harker's Fruit Stand in Coston for coffee or lunch or something. And boy, we just in like a couple hours we had all these ideas, and Kim, we made them happen, and here we are. Like it's quite incredible. So yeah, Kim E was saying, well, why don't we bring this table talk idea into the neighborhood small grant program? And yeah, so since then, since that moment at the fruit stand, Kim and I have been working together. She's such an ally, and I just want to acknowledge you, Kim, for how you've actively lifted up the work of IndigenEYEZ and kinSHIFT. And you're such an example of raising up indigeneity through action, not just words. So I just wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself to this group. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, everyone, for showing up this morning and with your interest and curiosity. And yeah, Kelly, thank you that how you've opened this morning and your sharing has just been really beautiful. And I really appreciate hearing you. Yeah, so I'm Kim English, and I'm most grateful to be with you today. I'm zooming in from the never surrendered homelands of the Lower Similkameen peoples. As a brief introduction, I'm a 5th generation settler with ancestry from England and Eastern Europe. I work with the Community Foundation of the South Okanagan Similkameen. I've heard Kelly describe herself as a bridge between past and future generations and in the complexity of the world we live today. And I've been thinking about that conversation at the fruit stand. And yeah, that moment really felt like a bridge too. But like many non-Indigenous people, when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its calls to action in 2015, I truly felt the weight of it personally and definitely professionally. And to be honest, part of me hoped it might be somebody else's responsibility. But deep down, I knew it was mine. And I realized that, waiting until I was ready wasn't the answer, but I just had to begin because it is my responsibility. So I began my journey. I started listening more closely, learning, asking lots of questions, trying to be quiet, listen more purposefully. I attended IndigenEYEZ's Elements of Truth and offerings from other Indigenous-led organizations. And over time, those conversations led to new conversations like the one that Kelly and I shared. And as she mentioned, we're neighbors, we just live a few kilometers apart, but that moment bridged something bigger. The idea of how we could support others on this journey of relationships and reconciliation. At the foundation, I manage the Neighborhood Small Grants program. And one of the things I love most about the program is how often these small grassroots ideas spark meaningful moments of connection and understanding. These events are often things like block parties with a purpose, shared meals, or small celebrations. Simple gatherings where people come together, they eat, they exchange ideas, and strengthen relationships. Neighborhood Small Grants is a powerful program because of the people and the desire in cultivating safer, healthier, and more inclusive neighborhoods. And I'm excited to see that there are some Neighborhood Small Grant past project leaders here today. That's great. And Neighborhood Small Grants, it's a powerful program. It's across the province. And I will share that it is funded by Vancouver Foundation, provincial-wide, and then our foundation in the South Okanagan Similkameen. But I want to go back and reflect on Kelly's story of her grandmother, Betty. And I love Betty. What a beautiful woman. And I love your tribute to her and learning more about her, Kelly. So thank you for sharing her with us. Because, when you speak of your grandmother, you can just feel how deeply that generosity and relationship comes through her to you. And that was a spark, that moment when teachings from the past met a present vision of what's possible, and that idea began to grow at Betty's table, at the Harker's fruit stand, and continuing. So Table Talks, as Kelly mentioned, began in part with that simple question. What if we created a space where non-Indigenous people could gather, not just to share food, but to share truth, learnings, and honest reflections? And Kelly, we asked this question in the fall of 2021. And here we are today with an invitation. And that invitation is to join Table Talks, join and create the space for non-Indigenous people like me and like many of us here to reflect on what it means to live on Indigenous land and what it means to take responsibility for that truth. And this is our work. And Table Talks is one tool along the way. Table Talks is an Indigenous-led and centered program that provides a structured approach to holding these essential conversations. And to be clear, as Kelly mentioned, Table Talks is not a substitute for being in relationship with Indigenous people. It is a space for non-Indigenous people, a place to learn and to reflect on those responsibilities we carry. Indigenous people are doing their work, but this is ours. And for that deeper understanding and unpacking, we need peer-to-peer spaces where non-Indigenous people can prepare to show up more respectfully and to be in better relationship. We've discussed food and the importance of it. You know, food is that universal connector. It nourishes relationships. It creates space for conversations. And as so many of you pointed out, it reminds us of our shared humanity. And that's why we call it Table Talks, because around the table, we remember that we're all connected. And yes, these conversations are not easy. They will ask something of you, but they're also deeply, deeply hopeful. They create that conditions for trust, for accountability, and for the kind of change that starts within and ripples out into our communities, and we hope across the land. And so thank you again for being here today. And we hope what you hear today resonates with you and you'll feel that pull to learn, to reflect, and to continue to walk this journey with others. And we invite you to take a seat at the table. And I will pass it back to Kelly.
Oh, thank you, Kim. Well, maybe some of you after that, after our shares are like, yeah, I'm ready. Just tell me how to do it. And what's the info? Like, I want to sign up. Maybe you're ready right now, but we just want to invite you to continue along experiencing a little bit more of a taste of what's involved in a table talk. So with that, I want to now pass it over to Kim Russell, who has been such a significant person in this development of table talks, incredibly dedicated, like her eye on the materials and making sure that the handouts and the curriculum, the scripts and everything is just it's so well done. And a large part of that has to do with Kim. So thank you, Kim. I just want to pass it to you to introduce yourself. And maybe we've been sitting for a while, like, why don't we do an activity before you go into your intro? Okay.
Yes, I would definitely do that. Thank you, Kelly. As you said that, I think that's why my Virgo-ness really came in handy with co-developing table talks, because I'm very meticulous and detailed. But yes, I will share more about my own journey. We're going to play a little game that is actually in the Table Talks program. So this will give you like a first-hand experience of what it's like. So you can take an object. So say you're in a kitchen. It can be any object. What do you call a rolling pin or a spoon or fork? Doesn't matter. I'm going to use a pen. And I'm going to have, Kelly and Kim help demo this activity with me. So I would have, this is my pen. So I'm saying, this is not a pen, it's a toothbrush. And I'd go like this. And then I would pass it to Kimmy.
This is not a toothbrush. This is a guitar. I'm going to pass it to Kelly.
This is not a guitar. This is a binoculars. I'm checking out the neighborhood.
Okay. Then it would come around the circle and, oh, this is not a binocular. It's a what do you call those? A baton, twirling baton. So there we go. So you could go around a couple of times in your group. I think we're going to send you into a breakout just so you can kind of get a feel for it. And you can start with a pen if you have it nearby, whoever starts. It could be whatever you have close by and just say, this is not a banana, it's something else. And then say the name of somebody that you're passing it to, and hopefully everybody has their name on their screen. Was that clear? Everybody's got kind of the idea? Awesome. Okay, we're going to send you into your breakouts for a little practice time. Welcome back, everybody. Ooh, I see a few smiles. How was that? Like, just was it kind of like scared? Like, oh, on a scale of 1 to 5, like how comfortable was that? Like 5 being, yeah, that was cool, fun, I loved it. And then maybe it's a 2, like, oh my goodness, that was challenging. Oh, look at, there's some, oh, wow. Boy, you guys are brave. Awesome. Awesome. Did anybody notice a shift? Like from when you first went in and how you're feeling to how you feel now? Is there anything different? And if anybody would like to share or put something in the chat, I'd love to hear.
I think people get a little bit more brave as they get more comfortable. I also like that Glenda and I think it was Anna were used movement too. Lots of people use movement, but standing up and down. So those kind of things as well. So I think people got a bit more creative as the cycles went around.
Oh, I love that. See, Erica says we're more playful and connected and felt relaxed and fun and nice to hear voices and creativity and have more connection.
T, was your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, I personally am just more energized, just being able to interact after an hour and a bit. So thank you for that activity. And I think our group, I would say overall shifted. And in terms of energy, and Kelly, just back to your earlier notion of your name, we also all started talking about our names in the last 2 minutes, which was really interesting and really lovely to share it in a deeper way. So I would say that also caused a positive energy shift as well.
Wow. That is so awesome to hear. You're already getting what we're all about when we use these creative games, you know, the connection and the play. And
I
there's
didn't
some
know
help.
before, I swear, that was not a setup.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Well, you said that. So I'm just gonna ask well, not yet, but Katie, just to post a question. So what do you think the value is of bringing these creative methodologies into table talks, like these playful games, like they are kind of sprinkled throughout, and what do you think the value might be? Gets us out of our typical ways of thinking and being, building relationship, interaction. I see someone typing. Getting into the present moment and learning faster through play. Yes. It integrates our learning, hey? And not be so serious. Yes. This is a serious topic. Learning about these truths is heavy. So this is kind of breaks up that heaviness so that we can breathe, move our bodies, connect. And different parts of our brain are learning. It's not threatening. Yes. And being authentic. Playful introduces vulnerability. Absolutely. So Katie, if you don't mind just putting up a slide about the creative methodologies. You guys are right on the mark. That they help to engage the whole person. We call it holistic learning. So you're not only learning with using your mind, but your emotions come in there too, and your body. And it builds trust and connection by telling stories and playing games and doing art and movement. It helps to build trust and strengthen the connections. And we start to feel safer, and they're more ready to be open and more vulnerable. And it encourages new perspectives, and creativity helps us step outside of our usual thinking, as someone had mentioned. It makes it easier to challenge assumptions and see things differently, and support deeper learning. It's a hands-on, interactive approach that makes complex topics like these more accessible, memorable, and impactful. So our program is very different than anything that you've would have ever heard or would experience online. So I'm going to share a wee bit about myself and
Kim,
yes.
thank you so much. That was awesome. I just
Oh.
want to let people know after Kim shares a bit about herself,
Mm.
we're going to take a bio break just in case you're ready for one.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Cal. Well, yes, again, I really appreciate appreciate you all being here and showing your interest in learning more about table talks, and hopefully you'll be inspired to actually join the program. A bit about myself and my journey. I am a 4th and 8th generation settler with Norwegian, German, British, and Scottish ancestry. And I've been living on the unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan people for the last 20 years. And for most of that time, I had no idea that I was living on somebody else's territory. And I had no idea of the trauma that Indigenous people had endured in this place on their own homelands, or any other deep truths about Indigenous peoples across Canada. And that all shifted when I actually have a partner who is Cree and Scottish. And she asked me to read the TRC with her. That's the Truth and Reconciliation Report. And I'm just curious, how many other people have read the TRC? Yeah, just a few. It's a heavy document. And when I first read it, I was really shocked. Like, this is the first time I was learning about this, about residential schools. And so while I was having my own experience, my partner was completely devastated. And to be honest, I couldn't connect to the depth of her pain. And I didn't know how to console her, and I didn't know what to do with this information. I felt like completely overwhelmed and frozen, really. And it's hard to admit, but at that time, I remember thinking, oh, good, she now is aware of the roots of why she and her family have struggled so much, and she can heal and she can help her people. I thought there was something that had happened in the past, and it was an isolated incident, had nothing to do with the present moment, and that it certainly didn't have anything to do with me. I thought this was all on Indigenous peoples, like for them to address and heal from. And then my journey goes on, and then I have to, come to terms with the real truth of Canada and the impacts of colonization, and it at the beginning it caused me a lot of shame. I felt stuck and immobilized, and I knew I couldn't stay there. I had to do something, and I wanted to do something. And I know that I definitely didn't want to harm Indigenous people any more than they had already been harmed. So I had to just keep pushing through and feel my discomfort, and keep learning and do what I could to make things right. And so eventually this journey led us to meeting Kelly. That's when everything changed. And we were invited to join gratefully invited to join the IndigenEYEZ team. And that was 7 years ago. And then, as you've been hearing, Table Talks kind of emerged from a shared vision of creating a space where settlers could come together and learn and grow and support each other, and hopefully in community start to lead towards some really big changes, collective transformation. At its core, we've mentioned Table Talks is about settlers taking responsibility for our learning, because Indigenous people have endured generations of oppression, and and it shouldn't be on them to carry the emotional labor of also educating us. And their time and energy and emotional resources are best spent with their own healing, right? And they're strengthening their communities and revitalizing their languages and cultures. So this is our responsibility to do this work of unlearning what we've been taught about Indigenous people and learning, well, actually within table talks, practicing away with each other first, of how to be in a more inclusive and respectful ways, and so that we can start building genuine relationships with Indigenous people and to the land and to all living beings. So Table Talks is a place where we can do this work together. And I have to tell you, I am not an expert. I'm a co-developer, but I'm still very much a learner. And so I'm here to learn with you. I will be a peer support, and hopefully my mistakes, my major boo-boos, if share some of those and my experiences that I've learned along the way can help you navigate your own journey, then I'm happy to do so. And I would be honored to have you join me on this incredible and very difficult learning journey. So thank you all. That's a bit about me. And we are going to take a 10-minute bio break. And I think that was everything. Kelly, did you have anything to say, Cal?
Well, just thank you so much, Kim, for your sharing. I just so appreciate how you share from your heart, and your vulnerability really helps others grow and be able to do that as well. So thank you, Kim. Okay, you guys ready for a break? Okay, we'll have what time is it? 20, yeah, let's come back at 10:30 and we'll put some music on for you while we're having our break. And when the music turns off, we're going to start up again. So welcome back, everyone. I think most people are back. It looks like it. I hope that was a long enough bio break. So as we mentioned earlier, we're going to do some more activities and give you more of a time to reflect and experience our methodologies, like experience what it feels like to be at one of our table talks. And then also by the end, like we're hoping the last 45 minutes or so will be the details. And we'll show you some of the materials, or we'll tell you about the materials and what to expect and stuff. All right. So are you game to do some more interactive, some reflection and connecting with each other? Okay, awesome. So I wanted to invite in us to reflect on this question. When we think about neighbors or relationships with each other, like when I think in the Smelkameen here, not only literally my neighbors, but us as neighbors, our non-Indigenous and Indigenous people that are living together in this valley, but also literally my neighbors and community. So when you think about your neighborhood, your community, and the relationships that you have, what's missing? What is missing in your neighborhood? And so not necessarily naming the problems or what's wrong, but what's missing. And if you had that part that's missing, how would it make a difference in your life or the lives of your family and loved ones? Okay, so we're going to ask, I'll put that question in the chat box, but I wanted to share this story that I recently heard about Michael Jordan. And how he used to watch videos after a game. He would watch videos of himself playing, and he didn't watch them to see like what was wrong, like all his mistakes that he was making. He watched to see what was missing. And if that was there in the game, how like that would make it even better. And it's not about what is wrong, it's about the gap that was filled that he could have the game he wanted. So when you think about like Michael Jordan's success, like it's kind of neat to learn about one of his strategies. So we're going to have a chance in a breakout again. it's easier to connect in smaller groups. So we're gonna invite you to go in with a couple other people, small groups of 3, and just answer that question with each other. What is missing in my neighborhood, in my community? And so make sure to make enough time for everybody. We're going to give you about 10 minutes, so that's about 3 minutes each. All right? Back, everyone. 10 minutes goes by fast, hey? I hope everyone that wanted to share had a chance to share. I'd love to hear again if you want to put in the chat box just a couple words. Let's describe, what are some of the things that are missing? Oh, someone's saying thank you to you, Jessica. Do you wanna start, Jessica? Do you want to share verbally some of the things that are missing in community?
Yeah, sure. So connection really came out. Yeah, just that spending quality time, I think, with each other and really deeply getting to know each other on that level of not just being willing to um uh like uh like Sheila said, bringing somebody some food or something when they're not well or something has happened, but having it be a regular occasion where you're getting together in smaller, larger community groups and sharing things with each other in order to forge and maintain those really deep, meaningful, and impactful relationships that are really the only way to maintain understanding of one another, because it's so easy to other people when they're not in your space on a regular basis.
Yes, thank you. Everyone relate to that? Yeah. Anyone else want to share what's missing? Hiram.
Yeah, so for our community in the Nicola Valley, we're just south of Kamloops and west of Kelowna in the interior of British Columbia. We are missing, I think one of the gaps is the youth programming or facilities for youth and other programming for youth to be able to spend time either after school or on the weekends or evenings to to steer clear of what's hitting the streets and the toxic drug supply. And there's so many pitfalls out there that we need to have better facilities and those types of items. And I'll share what Solana was saying about her community in Paul River. If I get it wrong, she can correct me. She was saying that there's no community center that's needed for large gatherings and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You can correct me.
Yeah, so some of the things that are missing are actual physical things. And, that would help. And what are some of the relational things that are missing? Kim, can you read some of the things that are
Sure,
in the
Kat.
chat box?
So, yes, somebody said engagement, and our group found what is missing in community in the Okanagan is a mechanism to find community itself. It's right in front of us, but oftentimes pretty difficult to start or build. I look at small groups of community I've built, and they were very hard to forge. Yet I hear all around me that everyone just wants to be a part of or belong somewhere. That's beautiful. That's so true. Knowing you are living by. Knowing you are living by. I'm not too sure what that means.
That was
Knowing
more
who
like
you are living
who,
by.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go
Did
ahead,
I
Anne.
misread that?
Yeah, that's okay.
Knowing who you, oh, I'm sorry. Apologies. And then see, it was the time went by quickly. Yes, community was definitely a part of our conversations. Also, how we were brought up to not share family circumstances with others. Yes, right? That
Wow. Yeah. Thanks, Kim. So talking about like what we see as personal and maybe vulnerable. Um, I really love what you shared about connecting, helping each other out. And, you know, if someone's struggling, like, do we help them out in some way? So when you envision those both those physical spaces, but also like what would happen in those spaces, what are some of the things that are missing? Um, Relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people is one, but we wanted to invite in this recognition that, you know, working on this relationship will help also with the other relationships. Like belonging and connection are things that are wanted in many, many different circles. If we think about, um, there's a term in our language, in our instruction language, white chiapt, which means we've all arrived here together. And we've all arrived with a triangle behind us that represents our ancestors, and a triangle in front of us that represents the people to be, our children and the future children, our little ones, our youth, and then their children, so forth. So, like, we're a bridge between our ancestors and the future. And so, when you think about, I just invite you to think about when you talk about what's missing in these communities, how we wish community looked. I'd like you to think about maybe some little ones in your life, children, if you have children, or grandchildren, or if you have little people around you in the neighborhood. Like what, you know, what do you hope for them that is different than today? And um, you know, what if that was there, what difference would it make? So, for example, Tyram, if there was a building, what difference would it make? If we had neighbors who came by with food when you're sick, which I would love right now. Um, if, you know, when I was younger, people used to help each other with hay season. They'd bring their equipment and they'd all help each other with haying or branding and stuff. Like we're in a ranching community, so like that neighborly helping each other. What difference, you know, what difference would it make for us and for the future generations?
I put in there in the chat also youth team building, relationships, and leadership. I think that the youth of today are going to be our leaders of tomorrow. So if we can get them thinking along those lines and get them in a positive environment as opposed to walking the streets at night and perhaps in some cases the toxic drug supply, we've lost a few of our youth, and it is a dastardly system. So if we can get them in the right direction, we can have, you know, some more positive environment and get people going down the right path. And the leaders of tomorrow, we need to be thinking 7 generations. I think there's so much, you know, with what's going on in the economy, different things. I think and people can't see past 1 generation, but we need to be planning 7 for everything we do.
Yeah, thank you, Hiram. And that's, you know, that's really built into it. That's the foundation of Indigenous culture, is always thinking about the next generations to come and our decisions. I love Jeanette Armstrong's quote. You know, a decision we make today is we need to be thinking about the generations down the road and the water and the landways, the all of our relationship when we make a decision. So you know, when you think about those dreams that we have, that youth aren't going to be alone and struggling, that we're more connected, we have a stronger web around our youth, our children, we're more neighborly. Those skills that it takes to be able to do that are the same skills for truth and reconciliation. They're the same shifts that we need to make. So, you know that saying, we can't keep doing what we've been doing and expect different results. So what are we going to shift in order to create those different relationships that we need and want? Not only for our relationships with Indigenous people, but for everybody. There's so many things that are not working right now that are gaps. So I just wanted to share a quick little story that I love. But before I do, Kim, is there anything in the chat box we should read out?
One sec, yes. There would be less stranger danger mentality, and there could be restored humanity and trust in one another, less loneliness and fear of others, more generosity, less isolation, and less overwhelm as we share the labor. Reduced expenses when we share tools. That's true. My partner speaks to and advocates for something called mutual indebtedness, a continuous pattern of sharing time resources, normalizing gathering to do things together in community.
I love that. Yeah, so imagine that's all normalized. And that's the new way of being. I mean, it isn't new because that's an indigenous way of being, but like that's revitalized and then we feel that and we experience that everywhere. So why we built table talks and the way we do why we call it kinSHIFT is because we recognize that in order to get to where we want to get to, we have to change. We have to shift the way we think, the way we relate to each other. Like we have to shift how we deal with our emotions. So like there's all these things that we have to shift how we see. And change is not an easy thing for people. Change is not something we do very easily. So we build our whole program around making micro shifts, tiny little shifts. And also we really need to be able to see the water that we're all swimming in, that of what we're shifting within. So I have this little story that I love. It's about these two little fish are swimming along in the water, and this other older fish comes swimming the other direction towards them, and it says, "Hey kids, how's the water today?" And they're like, "Oh, good." And then they keep swimming, and when the older fish is out of sight, they go, "What in the heck is water?" Um, so, when you think about we're swimming in this colonizations, like these colonial waters, we're just doing what we do because it's how we were raised, it's how we were schooled, it's the norms. And so it's, important for us to have a space where we can stop and reflect and see the water that we're swimming in, the dominant values that shape our relationships, that give us the results we get right now of not being neighborly, not helping each other. So what is it we have to shift? Kim, do you want to tell an example? I remember you were sharing the other day that example about with your dad about shifting.
Yeah, it was actually related to this quote. Katie, do you mind putting up that quote? When I criticize a system, they think I criticize them. And that is, of course, because they fully accept the system and identify themselves with it. And a perfect example of that. One time I had told my dad that, well, I gently tried to tell my dad that something he had said was inappropriate. And he took it as if I was calling him a racist. And like Kelly we've been mentioning, and we're all aware that, the truth is we have been shaped by a culture that's built on racism. And some of the things that we say and do, we don't even realize that they're harmful because they've been so normalized. And so when I spoke up to my dad this time, he became really angry and defensive. And to him, it felt like I was personally attacking him when I was just trying to invite him to just reflect on the impacts of his words. And he actually didn't talk to me for 8 months. Yeah, right? Oh my God, 8 months. And during that time, I felt guilty and I felt like, oh my God, maybe I didn't say it properly. and I felt so frustrated that he wouldn't call me. And I mean, these conversations are really tough to have, especially with family. I find it's hardest with my family. And it's because the things are so deeply ingrained, these beliefs are so deeply ingrained that many settlers just think, well, that's just the way things are. What are you talking about? Like, there's nothing for him to even grasp and connect to, how I'm trying to explain things. So, and it's a hard thing to balance, because on one hand, staying silent goes against my values, and avoiding these conversations only allows the harm to continue. And then on the other hand, my dad is 84, and he's not going to change at this point, right? So I struggle with that. When do I speak up and when do I let things go? And I haven't got a perfect answer to that. Sometimes I'm just feeling it out. But I mean, even though it strained our relationship for a while, and that was hard, I think I actually planted a seed, because every now and then I can see him kind of stumbling over his words, like he's trying to find a better word. And that tells me that he's trying. So that gives me hope, for an 84-year-old trying to say Indigenous instead of saying Native, just that little bit. So this is like, yeah, the water that we're swimming in, we don't realize that we're part of the system, and we don't realize how we're keeping it going. And when we do, we can start making more conscious choices, right? So I'm going to, I like this saying, we can't change what we can't see, right? So we are going to do a little team activity right now so we can explore the water we're swimming in. And Katie is going to pull up the whiteboard. And this is something that we all have access to. But I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers to step up and see, like, it's sort of like a scramble, right? Unscramble the words. So unscramble, move these Post-it notes around, 2 volunteers, and see if you can make one long word. Do I have anybody who would like to give it a go? And remember, this is not a, this is not a, this is about it, right? Stepping up and stepping into, when we're feeling discomfort, just trying things out.
It's such a, like, experiential learning is such a great way to notice without judgment. What's happening? How come I'm not volunteering?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's have 2 volunteers. 2 people raise your hands to unscramble this word, and I think it's in 2 minutes, right, Kim?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we got
Thanks,
Carmen, and who else is gonna stand by Carmen?
I can help move letters.
Okay.
And I think we can do this as a team, right? There's volunteers, but folks can sort of chime in. Or
All right, so we've got Glenda and Carmen to move the letters around, and we're ready to go. Can you guys move them?
Yeah, I can move it. Any ideas, Glenda?
Yeah, that probably helps to be moving them around. Yeah.
I see the word golden.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
I was seeing grow, but
Okay.
grown, golden.
Okay, well, I don't know how else to make golden longer. It's one whole long word.
One long word. Yeah.
Okay. Let's try grown.
Grown olden.
There's so
Olden
many
grown.
old.
Olden grown o.
Maybe there needs to be 2 O's together. What kind of word has 2 O's together?
I saw New World, but that wasn't all the letters either. And I don't know if we're all supposed to help.
I'd need another W for new world. Or maybe something that ends in an ED.
Okay, I'll give you about a couple more seconds, like if say 15 more seconds for you two to try it out and then see where
So we're
we
looking for one long word.
One long word, yeah.
Yep, working for one long word.
One
Are you
long
going for
word.
world?
Team, this is a team activity, one long word to make one long word out of these tiles.
Is there one hidden under the R?
Yeah, is there a G like?
Ah, nice.
Okay.
Right? Can I basically
Anybody
suggest
else like to volunteer?
one long word?
Ooh, Hiram.
That's the thing, one long word.
Long word.
Oh my
you said that
gosh.
Dun dun dun.
You have to make one. I knew there was a trick, but I didn't know what the trick was.
Here it is. One.
Okay.
Oh, no, that's the G getting bigger. Long
Yeah, you got it.
word.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those brave people who stepped up to volunteer. So let's unpack that a wee bit. What did it feel like to, well, first of all, what was the barrier? What was kind of stopping you from stepping up at the very beginning?
I can speak, which is funny that I'm speaking now. I find my tendency is to want to create space for other people to step up and not take the, yeah, it's the thing I'm working on.
Yeah.
Can I just say something, Anna? Like
Yeah.
when you look underneath that, that's a good, that's a positive, like that comes from a place of inclusivity.
Mhm.
Yeah, so just want us also to look at why we do what we do.
Yeah. Somebody had said fear of failure. Yes. People can relate to that. Fear of making a mistake.
It's like say unfair exercise. It's not one long word. That's 3 words.
Yeah, yeah. Trick. Yeah, does anybody remember us saying a couple times that it was a team activity? Yes. And what does that tell you?
That there were leaders and there were participants. So there were the people who were moving the letters around, but we could have been helping.
Yeah, yeah. Could have been helping. So that it's those unspoken rules, right? When, oh, I ask for 2 volunteers, so I think only they can come forward and do it. And then I can't, but some did speak up, so that was interesting, right? Some, and did anybody figure out the puzzle before it was kind of figured out at the end? No, okay.
I felt uncomfortable suggesting because I wasn't part of the volunteer group.
Right. Right. So, okay, so let's just look at this in terms like big picture. What might this be like a symbol for when we're talking about our systems and dealing with these issues of oppression and I don't want to give too much. I just want to, how might this be related to what we're talking about?
We spoke in our small group in the previous activity a little bit about like how our whiteness and like for me in particular, sort of like a Protestant upbringing prioritizes politeness and not wanting to like ruffle feathers or sort of, yeah, do the wrong thing. And I think so often this work requires a disruption or a discomfort that is unfamiliar or scary.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Did anybody else want to add anything there? Yes, Colleen?
I think that some people feel much more comfortable being in a visible role And they also feel very comfortable in a verbal role. And that's why having the chat or allowing people to pass and just listen or contribute in other ways. And so I think you have to recognize that, and I think you're doing a really nice job of that, is having a variety of ways to contribute and still feel like you're part of that. But then also sometimes you may need to do different sharing techniques, like passing the stick or the feather, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because some people will feel very comfortable like dominating or
Yeah.
taking up the space. And so I think some of us are very conscious of that and try not to speak up right away, to leave space for others.
Yeah. So what you're leaning to or pointing out, Kylene, is like with Table Talks program, where all these different ways that we can bring voices in, you know, and how people feel comfortable. And so we can kind of have all voices matter, right? And then what Anna, what you're speaking to is just about that whole, you know, not wanting to make a mistake, and that the silent bystander. You know, it's just like you see harm, but just like with my dad, I see harm, but I don't know if I say something, what's going to happen? And look at the repercussions, you know, and so those are things to consider. But also, I mean, if we are not stepping up, we're leaving it to the people that are most affected, most impacted by the injustices, right? So the whole program is kind of part of that, is building our confidence so that we can speak up, that we can. It doesn't have to be perfect either. Just interrupting, just bringing your word, you know, even when you're unsure, you know, you say, well, maybe it's this, you know, just that courage to step up. So this is what we're hoping to help you develop in this program. So I'm going to pass that on. Thank you so much for our volunteers and for bringing in your voices into the room too. And we're going to pass it on to Kelly.
Oh, that was awesome to see how that unfolded. And Glenda, you almost like, Glenda brought that in right away. And then I think Natasha was like, are we allowed to contribute? Like, is this a right, questioning it right away? Experiential learning is we bring that into table talks in our programs because it gets us a chance to notice. And I'm hoping you're noticing without judgment. It's just noticing like, oh, you know, like I do the same. I tend to, what I think it was Anna said, like I tend to be like, oh, I already have a lot of chance to talk in groups, so I'm going to let other people talk right now, which has a good intention. But sometimes the impact is not, can be like not beneficial. The impact might be harmful if we're stepping back too far when, like Kim said, you know, as my role as a settler, is this my place to step in as a non-Indigenous person to speak up right now? Can I take some of that weight? So I wanted to move into an activity next that we're going to do, I think, one more activity before we start diving into the details of table talks that really gets us to look at, you know, that what is our influence? What's our impact? It's called the circle of influence. Has anyone heard that? So when we were talking about our dreams for community and for our children, you know, like what do we hope is different in community? I just wanted to invite us to think about our circle of influence. So Katie, can you show that slide? I'll just show you and then we're going to do it. So this is where you'll need your paper. Just take a couple of minutes here to think about, you know, in the inner circle, when we think about the changes we want to see in our community, where are the places that I have a direct effect? Like where can I, you know, make a difference? And the outer circle, the circle of concern, is the things that I worry about. It's the things that I think about but they feel out of my control. So in particular, so on your paper, draw those same circles and just thinking about the inner circle compared to the outer circle, especially when we're thinking about changes in relationships with Indigenous peoples where you live. You know, what are the challenges or concerns that feel impossible? Like I cannot have any impact on that. You would put that in the outside area of concern. And then what are the areas where you could take small steps or bigger small steps to make a difference? Okay, so we're just gonna take a minute or two and then I'll ask for some shares. And remember, you know, we're talking about writing relationships with Indigenous people. So what feels within your capacity and what feels outside of your capacity or control to change, to make a difference? Okay, so just a couple minutes and then we'll get some shares. Okay, I'm just noticing the time and we want to hear from a few people. What were some of if you want to just put in the chat box, what were some of the things that you feel are definitely outside of your area of influence in the outer circle? Like, oh, those are such big things. There's no way I can impact. Does anyone want to name them verbally or? Clean water to all communities, yes. Mm-hmm.
Someone said hardline racists.
Yes.
Drug use and abuse, cost of living.
Yeah.
Canadian and international politics. It's all outside.
Okay. And what were some of the ones inside the circle that you feel like, oh, I can do this right now? Like, you're welcome to say them out loud too if you want.
So I have been trying to learn a few words in Insilchin and trying to use them when I can. And then I put in my circle of concern was that I might not be saying them right or in the right place in a sentence or whatever.
Right.
The other thing is I have a little beaded orange shirt that I wear on my my coat, just to sort of identify my, I guess I wouldn't call it sympathies, but my support.
Your lines.
Yes, thanks, Doreen.
So some other things in the chat box, Cal, are understanding and living by my own values, deepening my own understanding and continuous learning. So this is inside what we can control. Voting, writing letters, invite people at work and church into conversations, sharing skills, showing up for local events and sharing time, changing my own habits and beliefs, attending and supporting events hosted by local nations, and myself, my kids, guidance, the load on my partner for advocacy, and what news sources, channels that I choose to listen to, and how I earn and spend my money. And then the inside circle is friendship and respect in everyday encounters, learning about history and culture, and attending Indigenous events, supporting local Indigenous enterprises, and we commissioned a carving for our church. Ah, cool, Sheila. Thanks for sharing that.
Wow. Awesome. So we all have, the purpose of this activity is to remember that when we have the individual things that we can do within our influence and they make a ripple. I love that saying, small actions, big ripples, or small pebbles, I mean, big ripples. You know, you think like Kim's story. Well, you know, like that might feel small, Kim, but maybe your dad might talk differently to another person in his circle. You know what I mean? You never know. Like those ripples are that you're doing can start moving out to others. But the main thing we want to emphasize here that is very culturally based is that when we work together, we expand our circle of influence. When we each bring our different strengths and gifts to the table. Dr. Bill Cohen is a Silk professor at UBCO, and he shares a lot about the four food chiefs, our teachings around everyone brings different gifts and ways of being to the table, and we each need to be in our strengths, be in our gifts so that we can expand our circle of influence. I love the saying he has, nobody knows everything, but we all know something. And so when we pull that all together, we do expand our circle of influence. So this is one of the main reasons why we're like, let's really emphasize us working together to learn together so we can expand our circles and ripple that outwards. Another word in my instruction language is for community is snak silch, and that translates to we share one membrane. We all share one membrane with each other in our communities as humans, but also with all of our relations, with the water, with life, all life ways. So, it's like a reminder of our responsibilities in our circle to move through our fears. And for me, my journey that I was sharing earlier, like to heal, to move through my shame, move through my feelings of not belonging, to stand in my responsibilities to be a bridge where I can bring my influence. And I love that we have, such great examples of that in this circle here. Tea Creek, Jessica, I would love you to drop your website in the chat box so people can learn about your amazing work of Tea Creek. Like a dream some idea that starts small, like Kim English and I's dream of doing this that has grown and the ripple of that. So what creates change? I just wanted to, before we move into giving you more details of table talks, is this I mentioned earlier about change is how you think, feel, relate, and micro shifts. So when some of the things that we've talked about already here around micro shifting, I have a story I want to share because I've started going to the gym. I didn't think I'd ever want to go back to weightlifting again because it's like so boring compared to doing other fitness, but it's in town here, so I was like, oh, I'll do it. It's a group, so there's a group of us and we're doing it together. And when I first went, I could barely do a squat. Anybody like to squat? No? Jessica, yeah. Well, I hated them. When I first started, I was like, oh, they're so hard. And so I could barely do like 5 squats. Then I got up to 10 squats, like air squats with nothing. And then slowly Tyson, the trainer, started he was like, you're ready for the bar. So I put the bar on my shoulder, started squatting with the bar, 25 pounds. There, little by little, incrementally, he started adding weight. Like I'm talking these tiny little weights. They're about this big. They're a quarter of a pound. And it started go up and up and up. And over the last year and a half, I've gotten up to 100 pounds. I can squat 100 pounds. Never thought I'd ever want to even do that. But it's really like, the story just really speaks to those micro shifts. When we think about the changes that we put in our circle of influence, we think big, like we have to be able to, do these big leaps, but we can start with little shifts of how we show up with others, with a willingness to change your mind, to see things differently, to talk vulnerably like you have been today, like truthfully, being able to accept our differences and, what what could imagine a world where we could be in space where we have different opinions than each other and we, can talk through it, talk things out, and being able to shift how we see Indigenous peoples from, like this whole country is built on the beliefs that colonization is superior to Indigenous ways of being a knowing. Imagine we shifted that we could see the value of Indigenous ways of being a knowing in our communities, in our schools, in our governance. And, being able to recognize our implicit biases through these activities we just did. We start to take time to notice, how am I showing up? What was I feeling? Oh, where's that come from? So like, again, what I shared in my story, like being able to move through my shame also I had so much shame about my white skin as I was sharing, and I've had to reconcile with that as well. So shame really keeps us stuck, and fear. So being together, we can move through that. And, taking action, a lot of times people think of them as these big steps, but my Auntie Pauline, I loved how she simply put, when settlers are often asking her, what do we do? What do you want us to do? Like, tell us what to do. And she just said, just start. Wherever you are, just start. And so Table Talks is an offering for you to just start. So I'm going to, because I'm noticing the time, and I really want to make sure you get all the details you need if you want to do a Table Talk program, to understand what it is that you would be as a host of a Table Talk. What do you get? Like, what does it involve? So we're going to move into that now. I'm passing it over to my team, or am I talking about this part too? So, what is Table Talks? You just experienced a taste of it. So again, what we're envisioning is that you start with your small circle around in your lives, like people that you imagine would be open to learning. And we have it's a peer-directed program, where you go through the materials together, and it's like Kim English was saying earlier, like taking some of the responsibility off of Indigenous people to and the emotional labor. So learning on your own. And it also, like, we can't keep doing what we're doing and expect different results. So it's an invitation through some activities and through guided dialogue. You'll stretch out of your comfort zone and begin to see things differently. And it's really designed to create a safer space for people to speak up, to ask questions. And like we said, you can't change what you can't see. So we need to kind of like allow a space where those can come out, and learn new perspectives and take responsibility for your learning. Okay, so want to do the next slide, Katie? As a host, you invite your guests to take a holistic and experiential journey to uncover the truth about colonization, and build skills, relational skills, and practice Indigenous principles. So we've mentioned a few today, like reciprocity, respect, humility. So really, like, moving those into action is how we've set up this whole program, is based on those values. And when you're a host, like, you can feed them, or you can do a potluck, have snacks, whatever works for you. And I just want to really emphasize, this is a very important part, is that being a host is not a facilitator. Like, you might be thinking, oh, am I supposed to be like Kelly and Kim? And like, you get like a guide book, and you just read from it. And then the group is responsible. Like, there's no hierarchy. Like, everyone's responsible for co-learning together as peers. But if you're the host, you will have the guidebook. And so you will be responsible for organizing letting people know, inviting them, and then delivering them, like having the materials ready. There's some handouts for the participants. You get, like I said, scripts and how to do the activities. You get videos. We even videotaped a whole table talk series, so you can watch the video if you want to see how Kim did it. And then you also, like, it's just like we've said, a recipe. You don't have to do everything. You can do the parts that feel right for you, and you can adapt them. And you can skip some things if they don't work. So we really want it to be like a recipe, because I don't know about you, but I hardly ever follow the recipe totally. And what's the next slide, Katie?
I think Kim R might be
Okay.
Yeah, I can take it from here, Cal.
Awesome, thank you.
You can rest your voice and go cough in the corner somewhere if you like, if you need to. So Kelly's mentioned a few things that are involved. So this is kind of the journey. So you're here on the first step. Woohoo! You know, you came here to find out what it's all about. And so it shows that you're interested and you want to be a part of a change. So if you decide, we'll be sharing the details about the fee and everything later in a moment. But if you decide that, then you move on to the next step is joining me in a host orientation. And I will take you through the materials and I also do a couple of activities with you so you could experience them firsthand. And if there's any questions, like I'm here not only like for that session, but I'll have some regular working hours that you can book time with me if you have questions or something comes up and you don't want to kind of talk it through. So I'm totally here for you. Let's see, the next step. So there's five sessions. So the first session is an info session. So you would have decided on who you're going to invite and whatever you're comfortable with. We kind of suggest like smaller groups, right, when you're first starting, and people that you know that are really interested, because you want to build your confidence and you want to you know, have people that you really want to engage in this kind of work with. So that's something to think about. So your first session, you'll kind of give them information, and then they'll decide if it's a fit for them. And then you'll guide, once that's all decided, then you'll invite them and decide on your dates to, you'll host 4 table talk sessions after that. And that's by no means like the last. There's so many materials you could go on as a group to go through some of the extra resources that we've included. So like I said, there's an info session. So you're just giving people an idea of the goals. You'll talk about the agreements, like ways that you're going to decide to be together as a group so you can support each other in this learning. And the first session is about knowing where you come from. So that session focuses on like renewing our relationships with Indigenous peoples. Starts with understanding that we are settlers. So understanding our positionality in relation to Indigenous people, that we are on Indigenous homelands. The second session is knowing where we are now. So that's diving into about the roots and the impacts of colonization. And there's been impacts on Indigenous folks and also settlers. And we've kind of been alluding to these about our belief systems that are embedded, and we not even realizing that they're there. And that leads you to number 3, which is looking at those internalized beliefs and stereotypes that we carry about Indigenous people and how that impacts our relationships. The last session is we'll begin unlearning some of those myths that we were taught, and we'll explore how we continue your journey in reconciliation. Like I said, there's lots of materials, so you can go on. You can divide these. The sessions are on average around two hours. Some are a little bit more, but you can pick and choose. I don't know if there was another. There is the toolkit there. Yeah, there we go. There's It's all set up for you. It's all there. You do not have to create anything. You know, there are guidebooks, there are prep notes, like stuff that you could read ahead of time if you wish. There are guest handouts to print out and give them, you know, that they can take home, or you can send in an email. There are a whole training videos. I did a workshop over 2 days and did the whole 5 series. So I mean, you can totally do that. You can break it up however you feel comfortable. If you want to make it into 10 sessions of an hour, you can do that. That's up to you. And also whatever you feel comfortable with, you don't have to do everything. After you look over it, you can pick and choose. So this is yours, right? However you want to lead your table talks. And like I said, I'm there to support you along the way. So thank you. There, you finally got some meat and potatoes of what's involved in table talks. And I'm going to pass it over to Kim English, and she will share the details in regards to the cost.
Thank you, Kim and Kelly. Yeah, it's being involved with Table Talks. Since its inception, since its beginning, has been incredible to watch. It evolved with such love and creativity and collaboration. And it's just so exciting and encouraging to see these ripples today. So again, thank you for being here and considering being a host of Table Talks. So as Kim and Kelly shared, Table Talks is really thoughtfully designed for non-Indigenous people to do this really deep and necessary work of reconciliation within our own communities and circles. Now, the cost to access the full Table Talks package and to become a host and everything that Kim just shared, it's an incredible, really rich toolkit. That cost is $500 for individuals. Now, if you're in a position to pay the full fee, that is wonderful. If you pay the fee, your support directly benefits kinSHIFTs and helping them contribute to offer low-cost programming by and for Indigenous people. However, that said, accessibility and representation deeply matters, and we really want to get these conversations out in community, in the grassroots, and get those ripples going. So having this available to anyone who is ready to take this work on is why the Neighborhood Small Grants Program has created a bursary to help remove the financial barrier for prospective hosts. So this bursary will cover 90% of the cost, so that's $450. But we do ask that you, as a host, contribute the remaining $50 as a sign of commitment. Now, if the $50 is a barrier, please reach out to me or to the team, to Katie and the team, because we don't want this to be preventative. So connect with me and we'll make this happen. Now, this bursary is offered through the Vancouver Foundation, really the BC Community Foundation. And so it is eligible for those people that are living in British Columbia. The application is simple. In it, you'll just be asked a few words. We'll ask you what your why is to become a host and just a few more short questions. And just as a note to everybody, the application, you'll be coming over to the Community Foundation's grant portal, which was originally designed for nonprofits. So there's going to be clear instruction on how individuals can create their profile to apply, which is easy. You just have to do two different steps. Once we receive your application, they'll be reviewed on a rolling basis and you'll be notified within a week or two. So this gives you time to reflect and decide whether hosting is the right fit for you, and of course, who you're going to invite to your table. The grant portal will be open later this afternoon or earlier this afternoon, and Katie will be sending that link out shortly. So thank you for staying with us through all this information. And if you have questions, we are here to help. And just before I pass it back to Kim R, I just want to extend my deep gratitude to Kelly, Kim R, and the entire IndigenEYEZ kinSHIFT team. It's been truly an honor and a privilege to walk alongside you in this journey. I am continually inspired by your creativity and care and the intentional way that you hold this space for this work. And I love creative methodologies. Now, if I go to a workshop or a session and we're not moving our bodies or shifting, I'm like, oh no, I'm trapped in my mind, and I'm thinking in, like, you know, these old patterns. So I love the creative methodology, and that's what really brings this incredible life to the toolkit and gets us into those really deeper connections and relationships that we're all aiming for. So thank you so much for your time this morning, and I'll pass it back to Kimmer.
Thanks, Kimmy. Hey, you know, if it wasn't for our creator bringing you and Kelly together that one day, we would not be sitting here. So, you know, that's a thank you, creator, really, for bringing this whole thing together. So we're opening it up for questions and answers. If you might have, we have the whole IndigenEYEZ team here, and so I'm sure one of us will be able to answer. So, yeah, just sort of open up the floor, so to speak.
Perfect.
Yes.
For tonight, we are a nonprofit society. So could we, myself, jump in as a host for some, because we have most of our staff are Indigenous staff. We do have a number of our staff and our membership that is non-Indigenous. So could we jump in with the $50 thing for us as a society? Because we're nonprofit, and if that would work as a society, or do I need to do it on an individual basis, or how does that work?
Guess I would pass that over to Charmaine, hey?
Yeah, happy to take that question. And Sandra, you can back me up here if I'm missing anything. I would suggest, so we have another session tomorrow that is for organizations, and there's a whole different sort of pricing scheme for organizations because you're organizations. And there's also a sliding scale based on whether you're a large organization with over 60 employees, or if you're a nonprofit versus a for-profit organization. We are thinking about accessibility even in relation to organizations that will be coming to this work. But the options for the kind of support that we can wrap around your team are different for organizations because it's a different context, the kind of politics in that landscape and the dynamics of power and hierarchy that need to be navigated require a little bit more hands-on help. And there are additional coaching and kind of weaving together things like elements and table talks, which we really encourage organizations to think about in terms of those big ripples that Kelly was talking about, the potential that we believe a group of people from a single organization going through this is really enormous for real transformation inside an actual closed system that we can actually influence and try to work from the grassroots and the top down and all of the sides. So I would invite you, Hiram, to reach out to me, and we can also send you some of the materials that we've developed for organizations specifically. But I'd be really happy to sit with you for half an hour and explain to you what the journey could look like for an organization, and tell you about the offerings that we have for organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I did apply, or did agree or accept the invitation for tomorrow's meeting, but we have people coming in from out of town, so I may be able to jump in and out of that meeting for tomorrow, but I may be maybe just black screen for most of it, but I'll try and attend if I can.
Okay, and if you're not able to, we can certainly have a one-on-one conversation that will fill in the gaps for you. So I'd be happy to do that. Sandra, did you want to jump in?
I will mention that the bursary that's available is only for individuals. So it is specifically through Vancouver Foundation and then through the neighborhood small grants. And those grants are specifically intended for individuals in community to support that grassroots work that is so important. So as an organization, Hiram, we are thrilled to work with you, but you do sit in a different space. So if you're interested in looking for funding, it moves into your camp more than out of that bursary space if you're, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thanks for that question.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Can I ask how long Table Talks has been going? Is this something that's been going on for a while and I'm just kind of learning about it, or?
Kelly, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, thanks, Barb, for asking that. We did our first pilot of it, I think it was last year or a year and a half ago. And was it 2 years ago already? Holy. So we did a pilot, and I think about 15, I'm really bad with details. I think about 15 people ran a table talk, and it helped us get the info to adapt the materials and so make this final product that you're getting now. So we've done a pilot, and we had such good feedback from it that we were like, okay, we're doing it. It was really positive feedback. Mhm.
And from that time too, we've added videos, which we didn't have before. So that's really helpful. You know, it's like how to play the games, you know, how to have debriefs, you know, ask questions type of thing. Gives you a lot more, like a fuller perspective of how to do it yourself.
And also, one of the things that we found a little bit challenging is to talk in a way that is entry-level learner and not use big terms and stuff. So we've adapted the materials for entry-level learner and not trying to use these big concepts so much.
It's really accessible. Yeah. Looks well.
Sheila, I see your hand up.
Yes, so can you tell us for individuals, how do we take the next step, please?
Okay, that's my cue.
Thank you.
And Katie with the next slide. There we go. What's next? Ready to go? Excited? Register to be a Table Talks host. So I think the information was put into the chat box of how you can let people know that you're interested, let Katie know. So register, and our first orientation is on April 24th. If you are registered and you can't make that date, it will be recorded, so you'll have access to that recording too. And like Kimmy said, that if you need financial support, to apply to neighborhood small grants. And if you're not quite ready yet, there is an Elements of Truth series of 4 programs online happening April 17th. And of course, kinSHIFT. Keep track of what we're doing, because it changes and we develop and we grow, and it's just it's amazing what this small little team is producing, I gotta tell you. So, were there any other questions? Does that kind of help you out, Sheila, knowing the next steps?
No, so we go basically through the kinSHIFT website, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I think
that's
Katie
fine.
put her the
I can see
inquiry.
it for the business, for the organizations, but not for the individual. I may be looking in the wrong place. That's fine.
Okay.
That's enough. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Anna?
Yeah, we should, sorry, I think I have the same question, Sheila. We should email Katie if we want to come to the orientation. Otherwise, I don't think there's info in the chat about how to register for that.
Okay,
yet.
maybe I'll pass that to Katie. What is the best way to let people know they're interested?
Sure. So if you go to our kinSHIFT website, and I'll just pop it in the chat, just have 35 windows open. Here we go. Actually, I can probably share my screen really quickly.
Katie, if it helps, I just popped the link in the chat. So
Thanks so much.
You.
So here is our Table Talks webpage. If you just scroll down here, I have individuals over on the left, organizations on the right here. If you are able to cover the full program cost, this little button here will take you to register. And if you're interested in applying for the Neighborhood Small Grant, it's just this second button here. And then I think, like Kim English mentioned, we'll be checking those applications on a rolling basis and reaching out within a week or two of your applications. And then we'll hopefully get to see you at the orientation. So hopefully that answers your question. But of course, I'll put my email in the chat again, and I'm always here to walk you through or support your applications.
Oh, thanks, Katie. I wasn't familiar with that page. That looks beautiful. I was winging it. Could you tell? Okay, well, if there's no further questions.
There was a question in the chat.
Oh, good. Thank
And
you.
it looks like Barb and Natasha both have questions too.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was Doreen asked, how much of a time commitment is it to be a host?
Okay, well, like we said, there is a total of 5 sessions, and they are on average 2 hours, and some are a wee bit longer. Some are like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So sorry. But you can adjust that however you need. Like if you want to make it over, 10 different session times, you can do it that way. If you want to do it over a weekend, you can do it that way. This is something, it's kind of like a recipe book, like Kelly was saying. You can kind of pick things that you want to work on for one time with your friends and family, and then go to, it's good to kind of follow it in order because it actually does build on previous lessons type of thing. But does that give you an idea of how long? I mean, it is a time commitment. I mean, and that's sorry, personally, and it should be like for me, like it's showing my commitment to do this work. I want to help make a change, so I'll step in and do it. So that's just on how it works with your time schedule.
I had a question just about the synchronicity of it. It seems like that first session, if you want to be a host, is on April 24th, but then we would then have the meeting with our communities of people that we think would want to come to our table talks, and then within that circle we would decide the
Yeah.
full dates that works for everyone. And I wondered if there was or that was my understanding, and then I wondered if there was a time sort of period, maybe especially if you're using a bursary for reporting or something like that, that it's like you are now a host, you're able to host, you connect with your group, and then sort of like, I guess, is there a suggested sort of level of impact of time between the sessions for that group that you're hosting? And or does it matter? Any parameters there, I guess, is what I.
Okay, well, not really.
Do you want me to jump in, Kim?
Yeah, sure, Cal.
Okay. So, great question, Natasha. So, we're offering coaching or whatever you want to call it, mentorship support from our team. So you'll have access to Kim Russell if you're like, I'm looking at this and I don't know how to do it. I need to talk to somebody. Kim Russell's available. She's going to have like office hours for you to reach out to her. And that's for 3 months. So we want you to have your sessions in between April, whatever date that orientation is, and July. Like that's when Kim's going to be available weekly for 1 hour, like these office hours that we'll be posting as well when you sign up. And then you won't have, I mean, say you don't get around to it. Say you do 2 sessions and you're like, we're going to finish it another time. Please do. But that support is only there for this cohort for those 3 months.
And can I add, Cal, that if you you decide you're going to do it within that, that's great. Once you have the materials, you can repeat the program as many times as you want. So you'll just get better and better. And then other people might want to be hosts. So then, it's kind of, it's a pyramid scheme, really. you know, you know, we just want, ripple effects. So, please repeat it if you want to. Yes.
I think Barb had a question.
How long on April 24? What are the hours or?
Yeah, I think we've, again, three hours. Yeah. It's, it's in depth. We're hoping you come away really having a feeling of, oh yeah, I can do this, and it's pretty well straightforward. Oh, Katie, I can hear.
Sorry.
So it's 9 to noon again.
Was it that time? Yeah, okay. 9 to noon. Thank you.
And again, if you want to sign up and you're like, oh, I can't make that day, we're going to be recording the orientation. It's very information focused. Like this was interactive and we're giving you a taste of a feel for the table talks. But that one's going to be a lot of information download. So you can ask questions about the materials and everything.
Kimmer, there's another question in the chat from Kyla. How many people are the sessions designed for?
Oh, well, I mean, whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, if this is your first time, I kind of, an even number and keeping it under 10 would be a good start. Again, it's who you're deciding to bring in. You want people who are ready and curious and that you feel comfortable in having these deeper conversations with, So that's, and then and if you get more comfortable as you go, you can make your groups a little bigger if you'd like. Solana.
We'll need a bigger table.
Yes, exactly. More food.
Thanks. I'm wondering, is it possible to find out more of the information, maybe what will be shared at the orientation? Or do we need to sign up for that first? I guess because I love the experiential approach that I've learned here, and I'm curious about, if I've got friend groups where we are already engaged in conversations around decolonization and stuff, like, is this the right match? And yeah, I'd just love to know more about the content.
Okay, Kelly, would you have an answer for that? You're muted.
I'm trying to figure out how to move my mouse. Thanks for that question. It's definitely going to be dependent on your circles. And for some, this work is a big stretch, and for others not. You're used to, talking openly or sharing vulnerably or doing interactive activities. Maybe you're already used to that, but this, I think that it would be worth for you to come and look at the materials in that orientation. And I don't know if we can send them to you ahead of time, and I don't know if we want to do that. We've been talking a lot about how do we this work that we're doing with kinSHIFT is our way to fund our programs with IndigenEYEZ. So our big question has been since the beginning, okay, these materials are amazing. It spent us 2 years making them at least. And we put so much time into this. And then how do we do this important work in a way that also is fueling our IndigenEYEZ work, but making it affordable for people? So it's not an easy thing. We know once the materials go out there, they're going to be used, and that's good. But yeah, so that reciprocity of how do we ensure that we get funded, get supported in the funding for our programs. I don't know if that answered your question.
Thank you. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Hiram, did you have your hand up?
I just want to know the orientation session on the 24th, is that for individuals or everyone?
For individuals.
Okay, thank you.
And Barb, was there a question?
So another question around, so if I do this with one group, you're saying that I can use the materials again. Is there, like, have you thought about how, you know, would we make a donation to the second group that I did? Or like, is there a way that we could,
Yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
Thank you, Barb, for asking that. One of the ways that you can all help is promoting elements of truth. So one of our hopes, and like Kim was joking about our pyramid scheme, but it's like, it's our hope that when people do the table talks, that they're like, okay, we're ready. We want to learn from Indigenous speakers, Indigenous people. And the elements of truth are Indigenous led and delivered. So we really hope, Barb, that when you do the table talks, it's almost like a bit of a recruitment for that, like that you would encourage people to go to Elements of Truth. And that's, they have to pay, that's $500 for 4 sessions. So I would say, to answer your question, you can always donate to us. We have a donation button on our website. So if you did use materials ongoing, you can donate ongoing.
Yeah. And we found people who actually participated in the table talks. After they went through it, they wanted to be donate, wanted to give something back. So they're learning about reciprocity, and they were actually putting into action by the end of the program. And so that's awesome. Was there any other? Yeah. Okay. And Sandra, just donations are always gratefully received. We do operate as a charitable initiative, so donations are tax deductible. So there's a point there for you. Okay. I think that's it. Hey, thank you. We've gone over time a little bit. I'm just so appreciate that you've all come here, and I hope that you've got the information that you need, and that you feel like inspired, that it's something that you could actually do. I'm just going to read this little point there, is that hope is the foundation for change. Without believing that things can be different, it's hard to keep going. So hope is the fuel that drives change forward. And when we gather, connect, and share from our hearts, like we did here today, our hope is ignited. So Kelly and our whole team is so excited that you've come today, and we so appreciate any of you, like if you decide to go on, that's awesome. But we can also tell that by how you've been speaking, that you've already been into this work, that you already are very passionate and committed to doing what you can. Kelly, did you want to do a last word?
Let's just say unmute and say goodbye. Thank you. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. So wonderful to have you. Take care.
Bye-bye.